And from what I understand, during this particular scene, she was singing, leaning, leaning on the everlasting arms, leaning. She got armed. Now we're just going to go to some iconography on the prows of ships. Sailors, very superstitious folk, appealed to a woman deity, protect me, help me get home, I want to see my wife and family. This is a more Asian deity on the prow of a ship. And we see it here, using a mermaid, mythological figure, looking for a supernatural figure. And then we have another goddess figure on the prow of a ship here. Of course, when World War II hit, tradition continued in a different aspect on planes. You want to get home. I got to be inspired. I got to, get the enemy. So I'm going to invoke Hollywood, the Liberty Bell. There's another one called the Angel of Mercy, holding a bomb under her arms. And she's in a nurse's uniform. So GI humor, I guess when you're faced with death, you try to take your humor wherever you can get it. There's another one, surprise attack. We all know about the Pearl Harbor attack. Trying to use a sense of humor again. And then we have on the cover of Life magazine, this is the D-Day issue, 10 cents cost then, all right? The D-Day doll in front of a bomber. And little did I know, in 1942 to 1944, 1,100 female aviators served on missions. So my hat's off to the ladies who don't get the recognition. There's Rosie the Riveter we all know about, but we don't know as much about that. Gertrude Vanderbilt Whitney, a sculptor and art collector, she founded the Whitney Museum of American Art. She married a very wealthy Harry Payne Whitney. She was already a Vanderbilt. And she was actually refused by the Met, if you can believe that. Wanted to donate her art collection, and they refused her. So she said, you know what? I'll build my own museum later for you guys. So this is her surrounded by some of her sculpture. This is a portrait taken at that, I misspoke here on the wedding portrait. That's actually a little after her wedding. But she was also featured in Vogue magazine, 1917. In the interest of time, I had to cut a lot of my Vogue covers that I wanted to share with folks. And here she's, again, started her own museum, and, she's dressing a little more spiffy as times went on. And she was divorced by that time. And she did the statue, Aspiration it was called, but it was a male. And notice, there's no guns, there's no clothes, he's just out there. Here's one that, 1958 movie. And when I read the plot, I was rather surprised. 1958 movie about an abused socialite who wreaks vengeance on her husband abuser after an alien encounter. And it was a huge hit for the Allied Artists Company. And of course, Hollywood being what it is, they can't let it alone. They got to come out with a sequel. Attack of the 60-foot centerfold. Whatever, Hollywood. Then there was a guy here, I said, this guy's got a lot of nerve. I mean, I know women that carry signs and demonstrate, they're strong. But this guy, to go out there, and his sign says, divorces increase, repent. Women, let dress cover knees, obey God, wear modest apparel. 1 Timothy. And you can look at these women on his face like, are you kidding me? This is in 1969. And then, of course, Andy Warhol had to get into the act, comedian as he is, and he said, sure, I'll pose. And then we have a comic book. Now we're getting a little more modern here. Wonder Woman, Amazon's attack. Now they actually turn things around here. Instead of women fighting men here, apparently there must be a champion or a rival Wonder Woman who they hired to fight against Wonder Woman. But I just thought, sometimes things get twisted. You kind of have to know your iconography and study a little bit to see where they're kind of pulling the subliminal switch on you to make you come out with a different outcome than the one you might have. Now this I kind of thought was, again, getting into the new woman. I am dedicated. Obsession is what lazy people call dedication. Okay, I'm not going to argue with it. Then in the 1990s, there was an Amazon series called Xena, Warrior Princess. And it was very successful, very popular. And I said to myself, but what's it with that weapon she has there? And then they came up with a painting by Alphonse Mucha. He has, now this is a detail, this is not the entire painting. It's called the Slavic Epic, painted in 1912. And guess what his goddess is carrying? That same weapon. I thought it would have been a hoop, something to play a game with, but that is a lethal weapon she's carrying. And then these are Amazons from the same series, Reviving the Amazons. Those are Xena supporters, so it's like, you know, you mess with her, you mess with us. And then we have the Tomb Raider. Again, women are gathering in strength and power. Angelina Jolie as Lady Lara Croft, adventurous. You know, that expression, bad mamma jamma, just for the sake of seeing the things she does. Very intelligent, has a huge mansion, looks like almost one of the Queen of England's residences. I mean, it's an unbelievable movie, but the important thing is there are young boys that are playing the video games of Lara Croft. And I think this to young girls and young women growing, and young men growing up. They get exposed to these images. And there's a lot of images that undercut their confidence, and some build to their strengths, some don't. So a lot of this iconography and things you show and share with your children, I think are very important. Now we'll see at the top, Angela Jolie on the right. She's also on horseback here, riding side saddle, very ladylike, carrying a rifle, and that's her doing target practice. And then the inimitable Madonna on stage with a pistol aimed right at you on stage, always provoking controversy, but getting very wealthy, inspiring tons of young women. And then we have, again, comic books, or what we call illustrated novels. These are becoming extremely popular for young people today. They will not read certain books, but you have a comic book or an illustrated book. So now we see the muscular, you know, they're ready to fight and tussle, and they're superheroes, and they're all nationalities, all colors, all races. It's just like the colors of Bennington on steroids. And then this, I thought, kind of got a little point across that I didn't know how quite to put into words, and this kind of did it for me. You know? And it says at the bottom, "If I don't get pants, nobody gets pants." And then the guy says over here in small, "I've worn worse." You have? Okay. And then now we'll turn to my little Paris of Westchester, Peekskill. Gotta have more reds. I'd like you to take a walk around. Look at some of the storefronts. Look at some of the atmosphere. You know, you gotta color it up. I would look forward to the day when people just say, you know what? We gotta drive through Peekskill just to see what color it is today. I don't mean an Emerald City type thing. I just mean artistic, where the artists are actually doing the decorating. More greens. Peekskill, you can do this. We have the architecture here. More greens. Peekskill, more colors. Shop, get your attention, make you want to come inside. We don't have enough architects. Now this building is one of my, I won't say a pet peeve, but it's a source of my interest. I say, you know, with computers, does New York State really need this building for workman's compensation? I foresee this as one of the greatest potential galleries that Peekskill has ever had. Okay, this is an amazing building. And believe it or not, folks, it was designed by one of our former mayors, Frank Hopkins is his name, who was an architect and he was a mayor in 1942. And creative, when I read articles about it, it sounds like the Peekskill of today. A lot of opinions, very emotional people arguing back and forth. Well, at some point, we've got to come to some consensus. Maybe we need a woman mayor. Yes, ma'am.
Is that building still occupied by New York State?
Yes, it is. And there's been rumors of it closing. I even asked one of the guards, is this building going to close? He says, you know, I hear every 3 months it's going to close, and we're still here. And that was 4 or 5 years ago.
We have a woman mayor.
We have a woman mayor.
Yes.
Oh, I am so sorry. Because I thought Frank Catalina.
He's now the mayor. Francis Gibbs.
Okay, what's your name, ma'am? I'm sorry.
Fran Gibbs.
Francis Gibbs? Okay, well, it's a pleasure to have you here. Well, I was going to say, we need a woman mayor now. Run, please. Okay, no offense against Frank Catalina, but, you know, I'm ready. I don't know about you guys. I'm not trying to convince anybody through this presentation. I'm just trying to say that consider. Now, this is another building I go past. This building vacant for 20 years or more, needs repurposing. It's empty, it's sitting there, it's a bank. The banks seem to be target places if you know your economic development. Seem to be targeted a lot for repurposing. What's that?
Not empty.
Not empty.
What is it? Do you know what's in it, ma'am?
Westchester Community College? No, what's in it?
I'm talking about this building.
I thought there was this engineering group.
Yeah, there's some kind of,
There's what?
some kind of financial
Engineering
business
group.
there.
Engineering Financial Group.
Yeah, so
Really? How long have they been there?
Many years.
10 years.
Really? Well, it's a well-kept secret. That's all I can say. It's a very well-kept secret. All right. So I'm going to say Peekskill is the closest thing to Paris cities in Westchester County. Why doesn't the city recognize this? First, maybe the artists have to acknowledge it. Artists lead the way. And I'm going to close with this. We have Charlie Brown on the left going, "Hey, Snoopy, I'm bringing sexy back." The Snoopy goes, "Bitch, please." Thank you very much, folks.